Hello, and welcome to another embodiment lesson. Today, we're going to talk about something called the whistle breath. And it's a breath that we use when we want to work with tension and release in a way that aligns us with our higher selves, actually. So it's a really interesting breath. It's not difficult. And it calms the nervous system. A lot of breaths do that. Have you noticed that? Right? And it also it brings in this kind of divine energy of self that helps us to realize how we might be disconnecting from ourselves, how we might be pushing against ourselves, how we might not be allowing the more positive aspects of self in, and how we might be resisting actually grounding into self. So that's a lot, right? This is one of my favorite breaths to do in the period between November and December, let's say, like this time of year where we tend to be doing way too much, being too social for the environment, right? The environment right now does not want us to be doing too much. This is the yin time of year. It's this time of year where we're supposed to be seeking our inner mystery, spending a lot of time not in fluorescent lighting or not even in lighting, right? Not in front of light screens, right? But just in that time of like absorbing the self. And for some reason for me, this breath just always comes up this time of year as an instinctual pull towards remembering who I am. And I'm going to offer this breath in a few stages. The first stage is just the teaching of it and the practice of it, which we're doing right now. The second stage is obviously like a bit of a longer practice. And then the third stage is a practice that's actually longer, more of what I would consider a meditation, involving some use of the hand as well as use of the breath. So it's going to be, we can use the hands to call ourselves in a little bit more. And so there'll be hand positioning to do that. For those of you who have a hard time with practicing anything, just know that this is one of those breaths that you do it a few times and something shifts. Okay, I'm a big believer in the world being faster, meaning that we can process things faster. And that means that if you start to do all these practices that I talk about more, when you just feel called, oh, I just want to hold my breath here. Oh, I just want to focus on my stages of breath here. Or, oh, I want to just let go with a breath here. When you start to kind of track and just play with your breath more, you alter your consciousness more. And then it's easier to go in and out of states of being so that a trauma doesn't have to be a trauma that lasts for days. A trigger doesn't have to be a trigger that lasts the whole day. A mood doesn't have to be a mood that you live with for an entire day. Right? So it's this idea that you can change consciousness without changing your thoughts, because that's the way most of us know how to do it. Most of us do this whole thing where we're like, okay, I'm going to think positive now. Oh, I don't want to call that in, right? And do you see how I even come out of my body as I say it? It's not an embodied shift in consciousness. That's not clear energy matching clear mind. That's a disconnect. And so my invitation is to learn and play with all of these breaths that I've been offering throughout the day, throughout your life, because you'll start to be able to let something that happens to you not be everything that's happening to you. And you'll start to feel like you have a freedom to choose who you want to be in the moment that actually shifts your thoughts through your body's energy changing, which is completely different because you stop feeling and becoming the negative or the neurotic, right? Or the absorbed. And you start to actually feel, oh, wait, this sensation feels good and this is how I feel right now. Or, hey, wow, I just feel happy. Or sometimes like, wow, I feel really triggered. I want to move this. Instead of I feel really triggered and I want to be stuck in it. Okay, so it's about adaptability. The description of this breath is very, very, very simple. You inhale slowly through the mouth, and then you exhale slowly through the mouth while making a whistle sound. Something that's really interesting to me when I do this breath is like the first few minutes I can't really get a whistle. I'm not a whistler, right? It's not easy for me. And it feels like I'm tensing my mouth more than I would normally tense it. And the rest of my face that is tense can't quite adapt. So to get into this breath, one of the things you can do is you can just kind of play with like, kind of scratching your face, like, or just maybe even making faces you don't normally make. Nobody's watching, right? Well, you're watching me, but, like let yourself kind of have a more of a tensile release in your fascia in your face before you start this breath, okay? And then just come back to stillness. Feel into yourself for a minute. And then simply inhale through your mouth. And you don't have to, the inhale is really up to you. I want you to inhale through your mouth, but it can be a soft inhale because it starts to get a little tiring on your mouth. So you can just sip in, or you can just keep your breath in that whistle shape, which is going to make your inhale be a bit of a whistle too. I don't see a benefit to that when I do it personally, but whatever feels right to you. Any sort of breath work involves the need for body sovereignty, right? You are the sovereign being who resides in your own body. And your own empowerment means that you have to check in and do what works for you, right? Because what works for me is not going to be the same, okay? So, however you want to inhale, I would prefer if you try to do it through your mouth. And then exhaling low, slow in a whistle. One more time. Just check in and feel. Know that with this breath, it's completely normal to get strange ticking or releasing in your face. It's completely normal to get shaking in your jaw. It's completely normal to get odd sensations in your lips, your tongue, your palate. This is a breath that helps us come into authentic need. That need to just be one with the universe, while still feeling like our individualistic being has a right to exist. Sometimes doing this breath, you might even start to feel shaking in your shoulders, right? There's all sorts of like fascial release that happens with this breath. Sometimes when I'm done it, if I've been doing it for a long time, I feel like my bones are shaking, right? That's all normal. This is a very gentle breath that creates tremendous release. And release and wind go together. Change and wind are connected. We see this in the outer world. If you live somewhere that gets windstorms, you know, the weather that goes into a windstorm versus the weather comes out of a windstorm is completely different. Everything's clear, vibrant, alive after a windstorm. Same thing in our body. When we allow ourselves to shake, and we allow ourselves to tremor, and we allow our fascia to release, deeper holding, we're bringing in our own capacity to be lighter, which is connecting to our higher self. So that's it for the experiential explanation, right? And if you're interested, you can keep watching and do the actual breath work with me. Thank you so much. And, you know, if this benefits, let me know. Feel free to give a comment, a like, a share. If you're having problems, let me know. You know, one of the things is that I always offer private sessions, and I'm starting to realize maybe I should say that. But especially with this embodiment work, if you hit this level where you're like, I can't do this, or I'm hitting something I can't be alone with, I'm here. Okay? Thank you for listening. And thank you for embodying.